Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to Sala Zodiaco and to a new session here at When It Meets West 2026, day number 3. My name is Massimo Iannetti. I'm part of the festival team here at When It Meets West, and it's a real pleasure to have you with us today for this talk, presented by Creative Europe Media Desks in collaboration with the Film X Games Connection Hub, a new joint program by When It Meets West and Spielfabrik, a brand new initiative designed to enhance the connection between the film and game sectors. And I would like to take the opportunity to warmly thank all our partners for their amazing support and help in curating this session. I'm now very pleased to hand the mic to Creative Media Desk representatives, Silvia Sandrone and Sabina Briski, for an introduction to tell us more about the program and introduce our speaker for this session. Thank you again and enjoy.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Silvia Sandrone and I work at the Creative Europe Desk Italy, the media office based in Turin. I'm here with my dear colleague Sabina Briski from Creative Europe Desk Slovenia. But first of all, I would like to say that this initiative is made possible thanks to the great cooperation of many other Creative Europe desks. You can read on the slide, we have colleagues from Serbia, Germany, Montenegro, Latvia, Lithuania, Bulgaria, Croatia, and also Media Desk Switzerland. Thank you. When we, of course, thank you to When It Meets West for having us, and we are also very pleased to collaborate with this new initiative, as Massimo said, of Wenist, which is dedicated to the video game sector. Because, as you probably might already know, Creative Europe Media is supporting the video game ecosystem since many years now, and in the future, probably even more. We would like to give you a very short overview on what the Creative Europe Media through the European Commission and the executive agency are doing for this sector. We have some news also for you. Among the policies that are managed by the DG Connect at the European Commission, we have, they are working to a strategic plan for the video game sector. Actually, at the moment, we don't have so much information to make public for you because it's something that it will be disclosed in the next few months when a consultation will be launched. But we can say that Europe is, as you might know already, known for its high-quality video games. In our continent, there are a lot of promising startups, and the mobile game, we have a strong mobile game sector, of course, especially in some regions like Northern Europe. However, as any other cultural and creative sector, also the video game sector is facing a lot of challenges, like, for instance, lack of investment, a very crowded and competitive market, and also we can see that many companies have a small size. So in response to these challenges, the European Commission presents a vision for the future to support the long-term development of this sector. And it's also important to underline that this strategy will cover many areas like funding, of course, but also user safety and investment and other related issues. Another important information that can be also useful for developers when they will apply to the media fund is also important to know the studies that were published by the European Commission. We have one study that was published in 2023, Understanding the Value of the European Video Game Society. And then we have a recent one that was published last September, the European Media Industry Outlook, which is dedicating an entire chapter to video game industry. And it's also very important for developers who are going to apply for instance, for media funding to analyze better the market, the situation of the market. Yes, so we would like to very briefly, because we don't want to, very briefly, we cannot present you all the media outlook today, but you have seen that we have a QR available, so you can download the entire study. We just chose these 2 slides that can give you an idea of the revenues of the media market and also a pretty good idea of the portion of the games market which is highlighted in blue, in light blue. The second slide is regarding the media use in young audiences, and we thought it was interesting to show that, of course, young people under 30, they play a lot of video games daily or weekly. We are talking about 73%. But it's also very interesting to notice that also many other people in the general population, different ages, they play 71%, which is a very high percentage. And of course, young people spend a little bit of money on video games recently. Yeah, that's it for the European Commission initiative. So I give the floor to Sabina for the executive agency supporting measures. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvia. Hello to everybody from film and game sector. So for those that know or don't know, Creative Europe Media is supporting many markets and trainings, so capacity building in the field, in the audiovisual field, and one of those ecosystem is also video games and immersive experience professionals. And these are 2 freshly supported examples of one of the training is Game Skills by Gamaste from France, which is also a partner with Spielfabrik, who is present here with the Games and Film Hub. And this is the leveling of video game careers for European talents, and it's especially focused on Eastern and Southern Europe, low capacity countries, and also women professionals. So be alert. This web page shown here is from Gamaste, so Game Skills is only coming on, but yeah, have open eyes for what they will offer. And there is also one of the markets, Spain-based weird animation video games and new media market, which is one of the prominent markets for also video games where the talents can meet and bring about new projects, new exciting projects. Then they can apply to the media call for video games and immersive content development. The very call for this year is open at the moment, and this slide is packed with information, but I will not go into much detail, but for those that maybe are not so familiar, the main aim of the call is help in development of European video games and immersive experience projects who have a global reach. the most important thing that the European Commission wants to see with this is that we retain the intellectual property here in Europe. The projects that can apply have to have a strong narrative storytelling through whole gameplay. They have to be very original and have innovative aspects, creative and business-wise, and the techniques used. And of course, high commercial and cross-border potential, which is always a very important line when applicants are applying to the media calls. There is also a vast list of which projects are not acceptable, but you can check this in the call material. And who can apply? This can be obviously European video game studios, immersive experience producers and studios, and as well audiovisual producers that are venturing into the field. And they can apply as single applicants or as a consortium, which means that there is a coordinator with partners. The most important thing is that this applicant, single or consortium, has to have majority rights for the game that they are applying with. And the coordinator, so the company which will take over the application, has to show the international distribution track record of a previous project with sales reports that are from the 1st of January in 2023 up to the deadline of the call, which is this year, 11th of February. You see there highlighted it. And the information that interests you the most is that each project can get up to 200,000 euros. The grant offered is a lump sum, which is based on a budget that you show, so output-based lump sum, maximum 60% of EU co-financing, and the projects can last up to 3 years. The results, so again, the deadline is 11th of February at 5 o'clock Brussels time. Results are expected in August this year, and the signature of agreement in November. And what is also important to have in mind that the project has to have this development or prototyping phase minimum 10 months after the signature of agreement from November, or in case approved, it can also be from the 11th of February. For every question that you have and the first information on the call, go to the funding and tenders portal of the creative of the European Commission, and then you can, under this Creative Media 2026 Development Video Games code, you can find the call or check this QR code, which leads you to a very detailed 1.5 hour long info session, online info session, where you can actually get much more information, or of course ask us. We will present ourselves and our colleagues. We are still here today until the end of the day.
Okay. Thank you, Sabina. Last but not least, a look into the future, and Agora EU 28 to 2034 is the new program for the next 7 years after the end of Creative Europe. It will consist of 3 main strands that will merge Creative Europe culture, Media Plus, that will include also media news, and then we will have a new program with us, SERVE, Democracy, Citizen, Equality, Rights and Values. The total budget is, of course, is bigger. The budget proposed is almost 8.6 billion. And you can see we highlighted the budget proposed for Media Plus, which is 3.2 billion, which will include audiovisuals and also, of course, video games and media news. Yeah, please.
Okay, and the last two slides, we will not go into details, but yes, Media Plus trend obviously is covering audiovisual, because this year we are celebrating 35 years of media program and sub-program now, and this will stay, and it will stay focused on creation, circulation and distribution, access and audiences, innovation. But what is new is that video games are really standing out as standalone, like very, very strategic focus of the new generation of the program. And the news sector is not a new addition, but it's also standing out, and it's an addition to the values that the new Agora program will cover, and this is democratic resilience. So Media Plus will also have some schemes to help in protecting journalism and media pluralism, producing production, distribution and access to quality news, innovation, digital transformation and skills in the news sector, combating disinformation. This is very important part, and of course building the audience that knows that it's media literate to use the information in the new period.
Okay, and then the end of our short presentation. You can see all the media people here in Trieste. So please do not hesitate to ask for a one-to-one meeting this afternoon. We are still available, and especially if you are going to apply for the next deadline. Or if you want to know more in general about Creative Europe. So thanks again to our media colleagues, and thanks to you. And I think now that's time to introduce our speaker today. So please, Piotr Szcześniak, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for all the organizers, and it's been a very warm welcome. I already had a ton of interesting conversation with some of you that are here, but I'll keep the introduction super brief, because I really would love to devote at least a few minutes for a potential Q&A. So I'll try to run through the who I am. My name is Piotr Szcześniak. I work for 11-bit Studios. I've been in the gaming industry for quite a long time, with 11-bit over 4 years, but as any person probably in the Polish game dev, I worked for CD Projekt Red. Everyone did for at least a little bit. I've been there for 7 years, at the time when they were working on The Witcher 3, so ages ago. I am also, in a sense, part of the TV and film industry. I used to write about film a long time ago, and I'm married for 20 years to a film critic and now an aspiring screenwriter, so horrible mix of things, so I know about things. But more important than who I am, I think, let's talk at least briefly about the company I represent. So 11-bit Studios, okay. 11-bit Studios is there for over 15 years. It started in 2010, and with a series of rather niche small games that were called Anomaly Warzone. And the big breakthrough came in 2014, and that was This War of Mine. The game that at that time the team was about 20 people, but garnered a ton of awards and allowed us to go on the Polish stock market a year later. Since 2015, we're a publicly traded company in Poland. The next big moment, I imagine, was Frostpunk, a game we released in 2018, and built a franchise around it. And the game that allowed us, in the next 5 years, sort of built out the strategy to be who we are. And we are 300 people now in Warsaw, Poland. We have 3 independent development teams internally that can work on 3 different projects at the same time. And we also have a publishing wing that has a capacity to release 2 to 3 games every year. So in a sense, the way we like to think about ourselves is kind of like mainstream art house games, because we've been able to reach really a lot of people, probably around 30 million. Distribution works a little different with games. So we sold less copies, but then there are subscriptions and giveaways and stuff like that. So I like to think we've reached around 30 million people. And then we release a lot of genre-bending games that don't always feel nice to play. So they put you out of your comfort zone a lot, but they also have a sort of mass appeal. In gaming terms, we're definitely a mid-sized company, not one of the bigs, and definitely not an indie studio. But I'll give you a few examples, I guess. So from the publishing wing, a couple of years ago, we've released Invincible. It's a game based on a novel by Stanisław Lem, who some of you might know from other like Hollywood and first European then US film adaptations. We did Indica, which is a game about a Russian nun in early 19th century Russia that thinks she speaks with the devil. This War of Mine, which I mentioned, which was kind of subversive, to understand why, because there's a ton of war movies that are disempowering. But in games, an interactive medium, war is almost always a power fantasy for gamers. It's either you're a soldier in Call of Duty or you're a commander or a general in Total War. We put people in very weird shoes because we wanted them to be civilians in a conflict, in a besieged city trying to survive. And it was a survival and resource management game that it was fun to play, but it wasn't definitely fun. It didn't give you only like nice experiences. It was a grueling experience. The lasting factor for this one is that we just currently been, I think a couple of years ago, we've been admitted to MoMA, into permanent exhibition in MoMA, New York, as one of the 30 most important games in recent history. And it's the only, I have to double check this, but last year it was the only interactive text to be a part of Polish high school curriculum. Only books and 1 game. 2 more recent titles. The Alters is a game, if you guys know Moon, the movie Moon. It's a little bit of a spin on that idea. It's about an everyday guy who gets stranded on an alien planet, and to escape he needs to make copies of himself. But the copies are not real copies, they're versions of himself that made different life choices. So it's a game about the what if question. Like, what if I didn't, like the very human choices. Like, what if I didn't split up with my wife? Or what if I stayed at the university instead of working in a coal mine? And then what I mentioned, Frostpunk, again, on the spin-off genres, some of you guys maybe know what SimCity is, like really old, games that are city sim building games. So Frostpunk is kind of like that, but it tasks you with building what you think is the last city on Earth. After a frozen apocalypse, you are making very, very hard choices to keep what you think are the last people on Earth, to keep them alive. So, to sum up, we have a portfolio of more than 10 games that are still circulated and pretty popular. We've been able to get some mainstream visibility and some cross-media, in a sense, visibility because we've been nominated for a BAFTA. We finally won a gaming Oscar for the Game Awards last year for Frostpunk 2 for the best sim game. But we've been kind of present in the main narrative about games, but also culture, which is kind of nice. So back to the topic, why film and TV? I introduced myself. I would love for you to do a quick introduction the other way, a quick show of hands. How many of you played computer games? Both are fine. Both are fine. How many of you are from the gaming industry? Okay, awesome. How many of you that are not from the gaming industry worked with games in the past? Awesome. And how many virgins? All right. Fantastic. All right. So if anything I say doesn't make sense or is weird, just put up your hand and ask, and I'll try to explain as best as I can. So back to film and TV. I'll try to explain our perspective from an example. And Frostpunk, I think, fits. Really quickly about the IP. The game, the first game still sells very well today. Just last year on Steam Summer Sale, so like sort of the biggest game selling event on Steam as a platform, we were selling one copy every few seconds. So we sold like 400,000 copies in a week. And that's a pretty impressive result for a game that's like 6 years old. So there are still new people coming in. Like I mentioned, we've won the gaming Oscar and like mainstream visibility with Frostpunk 2 last year. And then the next game in the franchise is planned for 2027, called Frostpunk 1886. Because we're a publicly traded company, we have to have strategy. So Frostpunk is part of our long-term strategy, and we're committed to grow the IP at least for the next 10 years. And how do we grow the IP? So I'm personally tasked with working on extending the IP to everything but games. So me and my team, we work on books, board games, comic books, merchandise, but also obviously film and TV adaptations. We've done some things in the past where we've crowdfunded really successfully a board game on Kickstarter, and something I'm the most proud of, in collaboration with Jacek Dukaj, an amazing Polish sci-fi writer. He curated a selection of novellas that were released as an anthology in Polish and now in English, set in the world of Frostpunk. So with all that success and happiness and amazing projects we've done, I am proud to announce that they've earned less than 2% of everything we've earned from computer games. So the question comes back, why do it at all? So the answer is this. I'm very sorry, but this presentation is going to be ugly because I put together as much different things as I could from very different sources. So it's not going to look very pretty. This is the only pretty slide. So the game IP extension loop. So the development cycle of a game is long. It varies differently, but on average it takes between 3, 4, 5 years. Now, most of the time, if you don't have concurrent projects in the same time, it leaves a huge chasm between releases. And the competitiveness of the gaming industry is ridiculous, which means you can't leave your audience dormant for 4 or 5 years and they'll forget about you. So potentially extending the IP into different medium, like film and TV, or a board game, or selling people some cool T-shirts, makes sure they stay engaged with your IP and they remember about you. Even if that project doesn't necessarily earn you huge money, it gives you a chance to engage the existing audience, reach new audiences, and then for the next game you release in 5 years, hopefully monetize and make everyone, hold their hands and play your game. The reason, okay, I will be using a lot of USA data, sadly, sorry, but mostly because it's easily available and well aggregated, so easier for me to quote some of the data. I'll go really quickly about those because you pretty much know more about it than I do. So IP is king, is what basically mainstream film and TV says. And this is mostly because IP films and TV are just less risky because they have established audiences that mostly have some emotional connection with the brand or with the characters, etc., so they come in. So more and more of the box office hits and more sequels and prequels are based on an IP. Now, the next step from IP is king is obviously we like to kill the IPs. We like to use them up to death, especially Hollywood is good at that, until there is nothing left. So the king gets really, really tired. And you've seen it, everyone's seen it with superhero movies, with saturation so high that basically every new iteration brings in less revenue than it did in the past. And then you see it on movies that are, in a sense, subversive. One of the biggest hits a couple of years ago was Barbie, and it is IP-driven, sure, but in a very subversive way. And then one of the best shows on HBO was Penguin, which again is a very subversive way of making an anti-superhero series because it's as realistic as possible. No superheroes in the series. So, to quote a good friend of mine, Joanna, who I joined for her lecture earlier, same but different. Again, more of the same, but the returns are smaller, and they're looking for ways to subvert the norm. So it leads us sort of to the new king. And why the computer games are supposed to be and are more realistically becoming the main source of, or like the ultimate source of IP, they have huge audiences. Compared to comic books and compared to books, literature, they have huge active audiences across very wide demographic. To give you a Polish example, the Witcher games were played by more than 75 million people. And most of those people are 30 plus. So new fans, sure, but we're growing with our favorite IPs. So the gamers now are no longer 15, 20-year-old kids. The first wave of gaming nerds are 50. So they have more time and bigger wallets than, and stay engaged longer. So if you look at some of those, it's almost like Hollywood is starting to cross shit off the list. They don't even on paper make sense. There's a game called Gran Turismo, which is basically a driving simulator. And there was a $100 million grossing movie made by Neil Blomkamp. And it was successful, apparently, and not terrible. So if you look at it from this perspective, games are a good next choice. Now, the next reason is gaming is global in a very strong sense, especially when you look at what China is doing for the last few years as well, with how well their games are selling in the West as well. But the fandom is global and is ever-present. A good example of this is the Game Awards, which are, again, like the gaming Oscars that happen in December every year. The viewership of that show last year was over 170 million people. I know it's a little bit like apples and oranges because it's been on YouTube, and Oscars are, I think, for the first time will be on YouTube next year. But it's 5 times bigger than the Oscars, a couple times bigger than Super Bowl, etc., etc. The reason mostly is that it's not only an awards show, but there's 30+ announcements of upcoming games sprinkled in, so everyone is looking what's the next Witcher, etc., etc. But still, it allows global access to games. And okay, but how does it translate to adaptation, to film and TV adaptations? So these are only a few examples of what the indirect impact of those can be. The first one is Google searches for The Last of Us. The first bump is the release of the first game. Second bump is the release of the second game. Third one is the release of the HBO series. The one below is the concurrent players on Steam for The Witcher 3. The first one is when the game actually released, then there is the DLC, then 4 years pass, and then there is a higher peak of players than at launch. And like marketing campaigns in games take years. It's not like in movies. You announce 2 years ahead of release, and like you get people excited, you get wish lists, you do everything you can. And yet, the peak for the first season of the Netflix series was higher than at launch of the game. And the last one is quite recent. The release of the second season of Fallout. Basically, there are no new Fallout games. They're really good, but they're old. And the newer ones are really bad. So there is nothing for Bethesda, the creator of the games, to actually sell. And yet, when the season 2 released, they were all in the top 10 bestsellers on Steam. And Bethesda said that when the first season released, the bump, what they called the Fallout bump, was about $80 million. Okay, so with all that in mind, there's one more thing to consider for an IP owner. What kind of adaptation to try, and again, this is probably you know very well, so I'll be really brief. The cross-media way or the transmedia way. For cross-media, which means basically adapting the story that you've already established in the game, so retelling the story in a new medium, it can work mostly for new audiences, or if you do something really cool, you re-engage some of the fans, but they're mostly rewatching what they experienced already while playing. You need a strong storyline, a very narrative-driven game, and strong characters. And then the transmedia one, which typically is the grail for game IP owners. It shares the DNA of the world and the lore of the world, but tells a brand new story. Introduces new characters, engages pre-existing fans more, so does the loop, but also creates a new audience as well. So onboards new people and keeps your fandom excited. So no-brainer to make films and TV series. But there is one major issue, and that issue is that then it becomes a two-way street. And gaming companies feel very possessive and very protective of the IP, and I'll tell you why. Because the gaming market is horribly, horribly competitive. Just last year, on Steam, which is only one of the 4 platforms available for everyone, there were over 20,000 games released. Out of those 20,000 games, less than 5% sold more than 50,000 copies. So a lot of stuff, very difficult to navigate, very difficult to get visibility, but also a lot of crap. If you look at what was selling, it's the same thing as with film. Existing IPs, sequels, prequels, spin-offs, and brands that are established for years, for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. Now, there is even a more pressing problem. Market saturation is one, but also the market is saturated with existing games. Because more and more games are never-ending, let's call them, like FIFA or Fortnite. You have people that for years play the same game, and that doesn't necessarily mean they have time for new ones. If you look at the best-selling games, there always will be hits for every year, but then you have a steady 20, 30 titles that are there for years, and the gamers keep playing them instead of the new ones. So you're basically competing against established franchises, evergreens, prequels, sequels, and competition. And if you were lucky enough to actually make that elusive hit based on a new IP and you've arrived, like the Clair Obscur guys did this year, last year, with an absolutely amazing game out of nowhere, you don't want to risk messing it up. You want to make sure that IP remains strong and you have control over what it is and what can become of it. What it means to be successful, in less than a year, they've earned somewhere around $250, $300 million on that game, and they've reached 10 million people. So, and that's just the beginning, right? Because games stay alive for quite a while. On a budget around $10 to $15 million. So not huge in gaming standards. Now, if you look at the direct financial impact of a film TV adaptation, depending how you structure the deal, obviously, but it's rather small. If you look at the option money and like the IP deal, it's rather the indirect impact that you're accounting for, and therefore the gaming companies will really want control, which often is impossible. And the three things that are important for us when we give our baby to producers and directors and creatives from a different medium is making sure that we keep at least some impact on the creative direction, or at least we have trust in our partner, that we keep the IP from diluting, so we stay true to what it is already, and that we can at least understand what the timeline can be for the project to come out. I'm talking about this because one of my favorite games of all time, BioShock, is still in the making, 15 years after it was announced, and then canceled again. So I don't imagine there's a lot of people that remember the game that actually still play and still watch TV, and they'll be like, oh, okay, wait, BioShock what? Finally, it's supposed to be coming to Netflix, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Prime Video was working with God of War, one of the biggest stories in gaming, for more than 8 years. 3 years ago, they fired the entire creative team and they started rewrites. And just now, they've announced that they actually cast the lead. So I, again, have hope. But the last game of the new duology came out 3 years ago. So again, maybe it comes out in 2-3 years. Will there be another game to kind of build that synergy? Who knows? And then the last example is the one that hurts a lot, the Witcher spin-off, Blood Origin, the spin-off that nobody asked for, ever. Mostly because it's maybe as in itself, it's not terrible. It just has nothing to do with the tone and feel and style and the characters of the original games. So even the writer, Sapkowski, who created The Witcher, didn't have any impact, but he was happy with the money, so good for him. If CD Projekt could have any impact, they definitely would, but they couldn't. Yeah, we were left with something that could have become a really huge risk for the IP. I think now that The Witcher 4 is coming out in a few years, figuring out what to do with the Netflix audience is gonna be one of the bigger important decisions on the gaming side. And what if you don't even know what the direction is? And that's like a recent, I think, an interesting case study would be to look at Ubisoft, and they have no idea where to go with one of the biggest franchises in games, with Assassin's Creed. It's been there for, I think it's going to be 20 years in 2027. It's one of the most esteemed franchises and best-selling franchises in games, sold more than 200 million copies, so absolutely huge. But they recently started making open world games. Now the competition from China in making open world games is huge. So they don't know if they want to follow that route. The original Assassin's Creed games were very focused, stealth experiences, but the last one of those is like 10 years old. Now we know that the Netflix original series based on Assassin's Creed has been cast, so it's going to come out. Which one is it going to follow? How does it tie into Ubisoft's long-term strategy, if there is any? So if there is a Fallout bump, which way do they direct it? Do they make a new game that talks to the series in some sense? And more importantly, hopefully it stays as far away from the film adaptation with Jake Gyllenhaal from the very dark days of film adaptations. So yeah, I think taking all that into perspective and also based on our experience, there are many important aspects, but for us, it comes down to a few major things. One is respecting the IP pillars, so making sure you stay true to the IP, making sure the pre-existing audience is engaged, so that you're building the adaptation with the fans in mind. Making sure you can try again if it fails, so that the rights come back to you after a reasonable reversion time. That the marketing and the PR campaign is shared in a sense, that it engages not only that it's done by two companies together, and that there is, and that's something that was very important for me, that there is some flexibility around new elements. Because if you have an active IP, if something goes really, really well in film, you want to be able to purchase those new elements from the TV series so you can use them in the games. It's fine if it's for money. It doesn't have to be always yours, but there needs to be a way to make sure you can get them. And to achieve that in practice, I think, oops, sorry, there we go. You try and find IP champions. Like I mentioned, nerds are 50 now. I mean 40, 30, 40, 50. And there is a bigger and bigger chance that a producer, a voice actor, an actor, a director has experienced that IP themselves, and then they can be an IP champion for you. Try and get things, at least a few things set in stone. Like, what is an IP Bible? What if, like, your vampires don't have teeth? Good enough. Get 5 of those, and then it makes sense for your IP. Try and leverage your audience in marketing. Basically, make sure that you have impact on how you reach out when you announce. Is it maybe you announce on a gaming event? Maybe instead of releasing a trailer in a random moment, maybe you do it on the gaming Oscars, you know? And then try and, I know it's difficult. I know it's absurdly difficult to build a timeline for releasing a film, but if there's a way to synergize and try and release it together or close to a game, or at least make the announcements synergize somehow across media, then the fallout bump becomes bigger for the gaming company. And last but not least, stay engaged. And if that means co-producing, then I guess this is the answer. But then trying to pre-package talent, try to inspire people that want to be a part of the project on the film side, and stay active during the whole process to help make it the best possible adaptation. So, yeah, if that means, you know, co-producing, then I guess we're in a good place. Questions? Anyone?
Hi. What if I have a video game IP that is not as successful as Frostpunk, let's say? How, like, does it make sense to try and find a movie production company to try and bring that to a cross-media product?
So once again, I have to. I'm sorry to speak from a position of power, blah blah. But yes, we've been successful enough to have a few IPs that have a big audience. So that's my perspective that I know. But my answer would be definitely, because you're sharing the cool things. I mean, first of all, you have to, I have a workshop on that, so it's a longer answer, but you have to be able to evaluate your IP. Why is it small because it's new, or is it small because it doesn't have mass appeal? If yes, then what are its strong suits? Does it have unique mechanics, or what's unique in the DNA of the IP? Maybe characters. If you can package this into something that makes for a stunning film that interests the producers, then 100%. There are games that can elevate themselves because of an adaptation, and even if it's not for that game that you've already made, then there is going to be many more publishers interested in a potential sequel if you already have screen time, and they didn't hear about it from you, but they heard about it from a production company or saw it on, you know, Netflix or Amazon.
Cool.
Or in a cinema, obviously.
I think we have time for one more questions, if anybody has one.
As a film producer, it's been a really tough road to go and sell your idea or IP to a gaming studio. Like, why? Like, I've been explained many times why it's so, but like, I'm interested on your take.
Can you tell me why is it difficult? Sorry,
So I have a series, and in our eyes, it's an interesting IP that could
for a game.
Yeah, for a game also, because the world is so curious.
Makes sense. In my experience, the biggest problem is narrative. Always, all film and TV people feel the most important thing, and rightfully so, in film and TV is a story. In games, not so much. Sorry, yes. And again, I'm talking from a perspective of a cinephile. If you spend, on average, in a game, you spend about 25 hours. That's like the average today. It can't be only about the story, because you'll be bored to death if they're just passively receiving a story. So the gameplay systems and the underlying mechanics are what keeps people engaged. So now if you have a great IP on the film side, you need to think what kind of game it is. Even if you're not retelling the story, even if it's a spin-off, what keeps people playing if it's not the story? So then you probably need a partner that, you need a twist, like you need an idea of what's in that IP makes it a good game adaptation. The same way, like, it's the same way the other way around. Like, we're working on on Frostpunk, on adapting Frostpunk. And it's a game about building a city. There are no characters in it. There's just the canvas, the world. And there are some tensions and some stakes, and that's it. So obviously, to make a film or a TV series out of it, you need to come up with a way into the world. And it's exactly the same, I think, the other way around. You just need to figure out a way in gaming language. If that helps at all, answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Piotr.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks again to our partners as well for collaborating on the session. And I hope to see some of you in about half an hour at 4 p.m. for our Unlocking Capital inspirational talk. Thank you again.